everyone, I'm Roseann Benedict, and I'm here today to make a recipe that's called French onion soup pork chops. And I absolutely love French onion soup, so I have not made this yet, but I think it's going to be a really good recipe. So basically what you do is you take 3 or 4 onions. It depends obviously on the size, but I used 4, and I actually already sliced most of them because I didn't want you to see me cry on camera. But I have 1 onion here, and I'm just going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to make some nice slices, like half moon slices, and do that with the other half. So that'll be a total of 4 onions. And I'm going to put those in this bowl, and I'm going to take them over to the stove in a minute, and we're going to caramelize all those onions, and the whole house is going to just smell fabulous. I'm also going to put 2 cloves of garlic in here because, well, everything's better with garlic, right? So 2 cloves of garlic in here. And we'll just caramelize these really nicely, and then come back and do the rest. So the next step after we chop our onions is to melt a little bit of butter in a saute pan, and also add a little bit of olive oil. So the flavor of those two really enhance the onion taste. So that's ready for our onions. So we're just going to dump that in. There's 4 onions and 2 cloves of garlic. And we are just going to let this cook down over low heat for probably 15 or 20 minutes. You want them to be that nice caramelized brown color. So once that's done, I'll show you that finished product. The onions are sauteing behind me, and what I'm going to do next is not in the recipe, but it's called, French onion smothered pork chops. But when I go out and order French onion soup, I always love that piece of toast or baguette of toasted bread that they smother with cheese, and then it absorbs all that broth from the onion soup. That's like my favorite reason why, or favorite taste, and that's the reason why I really order French onion soup. But this recipe doesn't call for that. So I am taking it upon myself to include some sort of toasted garlic bread. So I have these nice Italian slices. I put a stick of butter and a couple of cloves of minced garlic in here with a shot of garlic salt. I'm going to melt this, and then we're going to put these on the breads and stick them in the oven and make them croutons or toast or whatever you want to go with our French onion smothered pork chops. All right, so my butter is all melted, and I'm also going to show you my onions. My onions are coming along really nicely. They're starting to get a little brown, but we want them much browner than this, much more caramelized than that. That's been about probably 5 minutes or so. We're going to go about 15 there. So I have my melted butter, and I have my little toasts here, and I'm just going to brush them up with this garlic butter mixture. I'm going to pop them in the oven. I'm going to make the oven pretty hot, like around 400, because I want the toast to dry out, but I don't want it to burn. I'm not a big burnt toast person. So you will have to watch it. I probably melted too much butter, but I will save this butter for another something, another night. But I wish you guys could smell this. It smells so good. Okay, I'm not even going to do the other side. It's not necessary that we do that, but this is what it looks like before it goes in the oven. It's going to go into the oven, and we'll keep going. Okay, so I am back to the stove, and as you can see, these onions are perfectly caramelized. Oh my gosh, they're just really fabulous. So what I'm going to do is, this is supposed to be a one-pot recipe or one-pan recipe. So you're supposed to cook the onions, and then you cook the pork chop, and then you put the onions back in, and you put the cheese, and you put it in the oven, and life is good. But it's really not a one-pan dish because you have to take these onions out in order to cook the pork chops. So I'm just going to put them in the pan next door, but I am going to cook the pork chops in the same pan because that way it will get the flavor of the onions, even though, trust me, they will be onion flavored because there's so many onions that we have here. So another little splash of olive oil, another little slab of butter. And yes, I'm still using my butter dish the way I like to use it, not the way y'all told me to use it. Works perfectly for me. But anyway, so just melt this up a little bit. Pan is nice and hot. I am going to take my pork chops, and I am going to get a fork, and I'm going to put them in here and then season them up. I have 5 pork chops. Okay, so we're just going to sear these very quickly, and I'm going to put a little garlic salt. I'm going to put a little thyme. Just a little bit, not too much. And a little bit of salt. I love this nice big sea salt, pink sea salt. It's so flavorful. And some black pepper, fresh black pepper. They're just going to be delicious. And while that's cooking, I'm going to check my bread. So I told you I have it up high, and I don't want it to burn. It's not quite ready yet. I don't know. Whoops. Can you see my hair flying? I'm going to the hairdresser's tomorrow, but it's not quite brown enough and toasty enough, but you just don't want it to burn. So I'll let this cook for probably 2 minutes or so on each side, maybe 3 minutes on each side, just till they're brown. And I'll show you what we'll do next. Okay, these have been cooking for about 3 minutes, and you can see that they're really nicely brown. Okay, so what I did was I took the pork chops out of the pan here, and I put them on the side, and then I put the onions back in this pan, and I am going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on here, and this flour is just going to thicken up the onions. Well, not thicken up the onions, but it's going to thicken up the broth that I'm going to make for the soup part of the French onion soup pork chops. So these have, just with that little bit of flour, you can see how thick it is. And I have about a cup of beef broth. I might need more, whatever you need, you put in there, but just enough to have some broth to have the pork chops cook. That really looks and smells yummy. Okay, that's good. And then I'm going to take the pork chops and put them back in here, because then it's going to be finished off in the oven. Right, the pork chops were seared, they were not cooked all the way through. So another 10-15 minutes in the oven should be perfect. And actually, I should check my bread too. Let me check. Oh yeah. My bread is cooked more than I wanted it to be cooked. Scott will eat that one. He likes them more well done. I like these. But nice crisp toast. And that's going to be part of our dinner. But what I'm going to do is I have the pork chops on top of the onions, and then I'm going to take some cheeses. And I am going to move this stuff out of my way. I have too much stuff on my stove. Okay. So I think I told you I'm going to use some Swiss cheese. So it's just, you know, deli Swiss cheese or cheese shop Swiss cheese. Put that on there. And then I'm going to put a little cheese that was left in a bag in my refrigerator. I have no idea what kind of cheese it is, but cheese is good. So a little bit of that. I just love the different flavors of all the cheeses. So a little bit of that. And then I have a bag of 4 cheeses opened, and that's provolone, Parmesan, Romano, and mozzarella. Put some of that on top. And the last cheese that I'm going to put on here is Gruyere, which is that how you say it, hon?
Gruyere. Yeah.
Gruyere, which is what really is used on French onion soup. And it's so yummy. So just, you know, a little bit of that with all these other cheeses. I don't know if you can see it's bubbling. But I'm going to pop this in the oven for like 15 minutes. Show you the finished product with my beautiful garlic toasts. And it's going to be a great dinner. Come on over. Let's see. Hot. Let's see.
Okay.